think about that arc that you talked about in the beginning, middle and end, and one of the things we were discussing that we wanted to touch upon more was how to know when to select the right channels. And so, Manny, I'm interested to come to you in terms of how you would relate that storytelling into, for example, paid media ads, Google ads, ads on Facebook. How do you use storytelling to help structure those ads?
But that's why this whole element that you both have just talked about is so key to anyone listening right now to the podcast. Using that Garter model, understanding how you can implement that into video creative. We've talked about this plenty of times before, how important video content is key to getting your potential customers' attention, and understanding your customers is quite key. It makes our job as a media agency so much easier to kind of understand that, because you've got to have that full integration from brand, storytelling, messaging, how that's delivered via video to different platform. By understanding your audience, specifically by going through that process of the Garter model, who your audiences are. We actually use a model called Global Web Index. So if anyone's listening, Global Web Index, you can sign up for free, but you are limited by the information you get. But the benefit of a platform like that is you get to understand and take that audience in terms of who your customers, what they're wanting. And this research goes out and puts those questions to them to see how different audiences, consumers around the world, UK based or within Europe, actually, react to that. So what are their intentions to buying products? How are they influenced by B2B purchases? What media channels do they consume more? If it's social media or YouTube, what kind of content are they consuming on YouTube, or kind of video content? Is it funny? Is it memes? Is it more educational? Are they there to buy? That helps us then define the different and select the different channels, because what I find and what I get a lot is companies come up to us saying, we want to do a PPC campaign, but in the end we say, well, actually you're best off doing an SEO and a social campaign, because you didn't know who your audiences were, you didn't know how to tell a story, and you could tell that story better through creating quality content through channels like organic search. That differentiation between knowing which channel to select is very, very difficult. If you're still unsure, the best thing to do is be agile and test different elements of messaging. So when you get into different channels, let's say paid search, you have to do text ads. That's the ad format you have to run. So if you're doing search-based ads where you're focused on specific keywords, it's all about the text ads. Your quality score is directly impacted by the content you have on site and the keyword that you're targeting, and how that keyword resonates within the actual text ad of what you're delivering. And you need to make sure that, in the head 1, 2, and 3, you focus more content around the keyword that's going to drive the attention. But you have 2 description lines within there. And that's where you can start incorporating this storytelling and kind of messaging within that kind of format. You can then create other specific content through site extensions and add extensions on the site to drive into other content pages that might be of relevance to what you're trying to push. When it comes to video and social, I'd say they're becoming a lot more integrated right now, because YouTube is a social channel. TikTok is, we've talked about this before, how relevant it is. Social media, anyone who's on a social platform is consuming more and more video content. From an organic perspective, and I think, Claire, you'd be able to best position to give your viewpoint in terms of how you communicate that message organically. But from a paid perspective, it's, focusing on, hitting those pain points. So if you've created a video that has some kind of emotional reaction, whether it's sad or anger or, a thought-provoking reaction that, okay, no, I'm not secure. For example, you might be a legal firm focusing on wills, targeting a particular age demographic to make them think about the future or insurance, etc. Then you want to pull on those specific strings that will resonate with your storytelling and communicating that through that video format across social. So it's the better the creative is, the better your ads perform across video and social platform. Images can give you a specific call to action, but videos allow you to, in a very, very short way, explain and tag and take that whole process of storytelling, that Garter model, and the strategy and tips that Anusha just talked about to actually get your potential customers to get to your website, to complete inquiry form, or actually buy your product or service, whether you're e-commerce or not.
Yeah, and I think, in summary almost of the point that you're making there is brands that know how to do storytelling well are going to perform far better. So when you know what your messaging is, you know the story you have to tell, and that is portrayed across every channel, no matter whether it's paid, organic, website, video, you will naturally outperform competition who are not clear on what their targeting is and not clear on who their audience is. And you raised there about the organic side, and certainly another exercise that we actually do when we're speaking to people about their websites, for example, if we're doing a website redesign, that we've started doing is top 20 reasons. And we basically go through 5 reasons people will buy from you, 5 reasons people won't, 5 reasons people will come back, and 5 reasons that they don't. So really getting to understand now, what are the challenges of your target audience? You know, what is going to make them not buy? Because actually we need to answer that in the website copy, you know, so this all becomes part of the storytelling, is addressing those issues. So for example, we even did it for ourselves as a company, and one of our key challenges was people don't understand how long it takes for SEO to work. So we've now written a long blog about that, and we're putting that content on our SEO page to help answer those objections. So when people are thinking, am I going to get in touch with this company? Am I going to see results? We very clearly have said, this is how long it's going to take. We then use things like testimonials and social proof to help prove that point that we're trying to make as well. And then you find that the reasons people will or won't come back are often different things, because the reason people will keep coming back might be great customer service, but they haven't experienced that yet at the time they're looking to buy, so they don't know that yet. So it's really about joining all this up to your overall values and message and storytelling, and make sure it's portrayed across every channel. So starting from, you know, if we're specifically looking at digital channels, as this is about digital marketing strategies, starting with your website, then looking at all the different tools you're going to use to drive traffic there. You know, naturally SEO is going to be relevant to the content on the page. So if the content on the page is telling your story, the SEO is going to help tell that as well. With your organic social media, you can quite easily apply that top 20 reasons like formatting to social media. Why will people buy from us? Why won't they? And how are we going to portray that in our social posts and everything that we put out there? And then pairing that all up with the video content and the strategy as well. And if straight away, you know, I feel like it actually sounds quite easy. You know, if you know who you are and you know who your audience is, this should become easy, but it's something that can be a struggle. And I think it's one of those, it's a mountain to climb, you know, for businesses thinking, where do I start? But, you know, one piece at a time. I have a client that says, how do you eat an elephant? And they say, by one bit at a time, because it's a mammoth task, but you just break it up into bite-sized chunks. So, you know, going through and just understanding bit by bit, audience, competition, messaging, our values, who we are, what we do. Once you do that, everything else after that will be really, really simple.
I think that brings us perfectly, because the other part we talked about in part 1 was we went into audience budget measurements, and we said we'd talk more about types of models people can use or businesses can use within specific channels. So specific channels across, you know, all elements across video all the way through to organic. The model we kind of use here to kind of help differentiate that and actually make that is our own. So if anyone goes on our site, it's there, it's plain sight. We call it the PEER model: plan, implement, evaluate, repeat. We're very data focused here at Bobble in terms of we take the data of the audiences and understand who they are. I touched upon that literally about 5 minutes ago in terms of using stuff like Global Web Index to really understand the audience habits. But from that, we understand which channels and what time of day they're spending their time on. If you understand your audience and know who that is, you can then understand which channels they're spending time on. So our model then is planning is all about strategy, understanding the audience. Then it's implementing it, it's being agile. So the term agile has been thrown around the industry for a while. We position ourselves as an agile agency, but people always ask me, what does that even mean? It means that we're agile in our approach, that because we know that the audiences that have been identified know how and know what their media consumption is, we trial those different platforms to see where the best results come from, because it's all about ROI to us, return on investment a client is spending. And if you're an SME in particular, whether you're B2C or B2B, in the current environment, budgets are squeezed. And it's making that element work more effectively by adapting and being more transparent with budget to say, right, we're going to take budget out of PPC and put it into social media. We're going to take out social media and put it more into SEO because we're getting better results organically based on what people are searching for. And then you got the evaluation piece, which is where, attribution modeling is really, really important, reporting. And then it's finally the last bit is repeating that process completely. So there are models out there that you can use. There's the ADA model that a lot of people use, especially in terms of attracting that. But when I looked out there, I really decided that we had to create our own model that differentiate it. And it's as basic and simple as it sounds. It's the overarching element that works across all the clients that we implement. And if you want to know more, just head to the site and read about the model and take it and use it yourselves. It works, and it works effectively.
And so one thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about is we're discussing these models that help form the strategy. But then I think something that is going to be really important to everyone is obviously understanding the results and measurements. And do you guys have any particular tips or models that you use for measuring the success of the campaigns?
I can talk about the video part of it. Actually, last time I talked a bit about how to measure the success of the videos. And I said that actually there are many ways to measure it, but what actually you need to take into account is your video achieving the goal that you have set at the beginning of when you are just creating a video marketing strategy. But I can share with you several, let's say 6 maybe ways of measuring a success in generic, so you can take into account no matter like which kind of goal you are choosing for that moment. So basically the first one is view count. Of course, it's the number of times people viewed your video in general. In this case, you need to take into account that, for example, YouTube is counting the views after watching 30 minutes. And for example, Facebook is counting after watching 3 minutes. So you need to take this into account when you are seeing the views in different platforms. But I would suggest not be so obsessed with views, because of course reach is good, but it's not the best way to measure your success. You can have 10,000 views but not one time sell your product. So basically it's just a way of measuring, but not the best one. The second way is maybe social shares, because whenever you are creating, as we talked about storytelling, whenever you are creating a good story, people of course would share it, and the sharing giving you possibility for your video to go viral. So that's the best way. For this case, I would suggest just to take into account on your story what you are creating, make it very educational, entertaining, emotional, and unique, of course, so people could be interesting to share it. Maybe our listeners, let's say, have realized that the videos that have more social impact or brand awareness or anything like this is more shareable. So this is because people are more connected to the story that the video is giving them. That's why they could share it with their audience as well and want to make this video to be heard and to be seen from the other people, from their friends. The other way is to measuring your success is engagement. It's of course how many views, how many people watched, rewatched, or stopped watching your videos. So in this case, engagement is a good way to understand that people understood what you are giving them. They were so interested to hear, and for this, it would be really good to keep your content very short and clear so people can be so much engaged with it. And it's better to just remove all unnecessary content that you are providing and just concentrate on the most important parts. If your videos are long, for example, for a YouTube channel, would be really good to have graphics in it so people could be interesting and not worried in the middle of the speech, and give new information